Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Namaste Experience. I am here in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm actually at my brother's house after having spent a wonderful weekend with Victor Wooten and family and friends at the Wooten Spirit of Music camp. Oh my goodness, what a weekend it was. Vicky has been here with me before, so she knows being out in the woods with so many great musicians and mystics was just such a privilege, and it set my heart on fire. So I want to share some of that fire with all of you today. So let's dive right in. We're gonna hear a little bit from Joel Goldsmith today, but the first thing that I'm feeling is to share this one line that came. I'm going to be calling this session the Unreasonable One. The Unreasonable One. Okay, so this is what I just wrote. The mystic's way is to run away from the reasonableness of the perceptual world into the unreasonable nature of divinity. Let me read that one more time. The mystic's way is to run away from the reasonableness of the perceptual world, all the ways that the perceptual world seems so reasonable, into the unreasonable, at least from the perspective of the world, the unreasonable nature of divinity. Isn't that what we talk about pretty much every day? How different the reasonable nature of divinity is from all the things that we're told in the world that we have to do or be or claim. They have a reasonable life, to be secure, to be safe, to be abundant. You have to do this, and you need to do that, and you need to get all your ducks in order. And yet all the great mystics and all the great avatars throughout history have said, leave that all behind. The more you try to be reasonable in the eyes of the world, the more unreasonable you become within that state of divine nature that we all experience. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And I want to share it mainly from the perspective of Joel Goldsmith. I was reading in The Infinite Way this morning, something that he shared. And he began by quoting a few of the lines that I'm sure almost all of you have heard before. This is Jesus speaking in the Gospel of Luke. But I want you to listen to these as if you've never heard them before. We have a tendency to hear something like, look at the birds of the air, or look at the lilies of the field. And we just gloss it over because we've heard it so many times, maybe ever since we were children. But I want you to listen to this today as if it's the very first time. Maybe from the perspective of being there in that field or around that fire, wherever it may have been when Jesus actually said these words 2,000 years ago. You've never heard them before. And it's so unreasonable. Everything he's going to share is so unreasonable compared to everything we've been told about how to keep safe, how to be secure. And that's the thing about Jesus and every great mystic. They're totally unreasonable. They're totally uncompromising. And isn't that something we talk about nearly every day? Be uncompromising with this message. When you are as uncompromising with this message of love as it is with you, you will pop into the experience of whole mind. It literally is a popping sensation. Or as I've said before, it's like putting on glasses for the first time. You didn't even realize just how blurry things were until you put on the corrective glasses. And it's the same thing when you put on whole-mindedness, suddenly everything becomes so clear. And it happens like this. But it's your decision. It's your decision to claim that which has forever claimed you. So these are a few lines from the Gospel of Luke. And as I said, I want you to listen to these as if you've never heard them before. So Jesus said to his disciples, I say to you, take no thought for your life. Take no thought for your life. That is so radical. What you should eat, what you should wear, or what you should put on. Life is more than meat. And the body is more than clothes. Life is more than the food that you eat. Life is so much more than what you decide to put on your body. Take no thought. This is basically what we come back to time and time again with all the great mystics. Take no thought. Don't think about it. Don't worry about it. Focus only on one thing. That's why we're calling this the unreasonable one. You can be totally, totally unreasonable in the view of the world or perception. But to that state and that experience of oneness, you're spot on, spot on. Here's more. This is one I'm sure you've all heard. Consider the ravens, for they neither sow nor do they reap, but they don't have a storehouse nor a barn, but God feeds them. And how much more are you better than the birds of the air? How much more will God give to you if you trust completely? Or this one. And which of you, by taking thought, can add to your height a single cubit? And this is kind of hard to read because Joel always does this in the King James version. If ye then be not able, and I don't like that. So if you are not able to do these things which are least, the smallest things, then why should you take thought for the rest? Oh, hello. I just got attacked by a dog. Hi, guys. Hi, guys. Good to see you. Okay. Here's a good one. If God clothes the grass, which is today in the field and tomorrow is cast into the oven, how much more will God clothe you, oh, ye of little faith? I love when Jesus says things like that. Oh, ye of little faith. So all of these things are just examples of Jesus sharing the unreasonable nature of truth when compared to what's called the reasonable nature of the world. All the things that you have to do or think about or worry about so that your life will be easy and calm. You know, here in Nashville, where I am, I'm out in the suburbs. I don't remember the name of the town where my brother lives, but oh my goodness, the houses are so big. And it's like every house around here is like a mansion. And I drive around or I look around and I think, what is the draw? What is it that makes us want to store up so much stuff and to be burdened by such weight when we can be like the lilies of the field or the birds of the air and trust and know with complete and total confidence that everything is going to be given to us? So with that in mind, let's turn to what Joel Goldsmith has to say in The Infinite Way, because what he's going to show us is what true supply is. Not what we think our supply is, but what is real supply. Okay, so he begins by saying, how is it possible to take no thought for money when pressing obligations must be met? This is probably something we've all thought about. How is it possible to take no thought for any of these things when you have pressing obligations? How can we trust God when year in and year out these financial problems confront us? And usually through no fault of our own. We've seen in those passages from Luke that the way to solve our difficulties is to take no thought for supply, whether of money, food, clothing, or any other form. Take no thought. Don't worry about any of it. And the reason that we need to have no anxiety about these things is that it is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. It is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. It isn't God's pleasure to give you a steak dinner. It isn't God's pleasure to give you a big house. Those are not true supply. And it's also not what you really, really want. Those things may be what you think you want, based upon what you believe to be your nature, which is usually limited, which is needy, which is vulnerable. And as long as you think of yourself as limited, needy, and vulnerable, you're going to think that you need all of these things. You're going to need a huge house. I'm not, talking about my brother so much, even though he does have a huge house. But this is for my mind. ultimately, is for my mind to realize that all I really need is to follow that mystic path into the unreasonable one, which is completely reasonable in the mind of God. Okay, so let me skip forward here. Joel goes on to say, in order that we can enter wholly into the spirit of confidence of this inspired message that we find in Scripture, all the things that Jesus and all the great mystics tell us, we must understand that money, and here's the key, money is not supply. That's what we've been told. That's what we believe, that as long as we have enough money, we have supply. And this is where Joel really gets to the heart of the matter. But actually, it's the result or the effect of supply. Money and everything else is the result or the effect of supply. So there's no such thing as a supply of money, clothes, homes, automobiles, or food. All of these constitute the effect of supply. And if this infinite supply were not present within you, that's where it is. Look within if you want to find the supply. If it were not present within you, then there never would be the added things. Remember what he said, that it is my Father's pleasure to give you the kingdom, all of the added things that you need, that God knows about already, that the divine is fully aware that you need clothes, you need to have food, but you don't have to worry about these things if your focus is on true supply. He says the added things, of course, are those practical things like money, food, clothing that are so necessary for this stage of existence. Not every stage, but certainly this stage. Okay, here he goes. Since money is not supply, then what is supply? Here's where we get right down to the heart of the matter. Let us digress for a moment and look at the orange tree. This is a beautiful analogy. The orange tree, which is laden with fruit. We know that the oranges do not constitute supply because when they've been eaten or sold or given away, a new crop starts at once to grow. The oranges are gone, but the supply remains because within that tree, there is a law in operation within the tree itself. Call it a law of God or a law of nature. The name of the law is not very important, but the recognition of the presence of a law operating in, through, or as the tree is important. To recognize the law that is operating through the tree, as the tree, as each one of us. This is what's important. The law operates to draw in through the roots with the tree, the minerals, the substances, the elements of air, water, sunshine, which it then transforms into sap that is drawn up through the trunk of the tree and distributed through the branches and finally set into expression as blossoms. In due time, this law transforms the blossoms into a green marble, a little tiny marble, and this becomes the full-grown orange. The orange is the result or the effect of the operation of the law acting in, through, and as the orange tree. Listen to that one more time. The orange, that which you hold and eat, is the result or the effect of the operation of the law acting in, through, and as the orange tree. As long as this law is present, we will have oranges. The orange of itself cannot produce another orange. Thus, we understand that the law is the supply and oranges are the fruit, the result or the effect of the law. So, how do we apply this to our daily lives? We have this tendency, once again, as Joel so beautifully put it, to think that the money that we get from working or from someone giving us money, that this is the supply that we need, because we can then exchange that money to have a house, to have clothes, to have all these things. But remember, it is God's good pleasure to give you everything that you need if your mind is focused on true supply. if your mind and your heart is focused on the unreasonable one, and here we come back to the beginning. Once again, that which is so reasonable in the mind of the world is totally unreasonable in the eyes of God, and vice versa. In the world, if we told you that there is an infinite source of supply everywhere, all you need to do is to surrender and trust and allow that supply to come to you without effort, because your mind is focused on the one. Would you believe it? Do you believe that? And if there's a part of you that still wonders or maybe even doubts, that's okay. Just keep bringing your mind, bringing your heart back to that orange tree. Remember, the orange tree doesn't need to do anything but be an orange tree. It doesn't need to try to make an orange. It just needs to be what it is. All you need to do to demonstrate infinite supply is to be who you are, to be the holy, perfect, infinite, single extension of the mind of love or of God. That's who and what you are. And yet we've forgotten that. And then we wander away from Eden. We wander away from the land of plenty, where everything that we need is given to us. And then we start to believe, because we've forgotten who we really are, that we need to work, we need to strive, instead of realizing that if I just give myself wholly to that infinite source of supply, sometimes called God, sometimes called spirit, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. But to know that everything I need will be given to me. You know, I can remember, I guess it was 4 years ago now, right before COVID started, when Bill Free and I launched on this amazing journey across the United States from the West Coast to the East Coast with no money, no credit cards, not even really a plan. I mean, we knew that we had to be in certain cities on certain days so I could perform this one-man musical based on the life of St. Francis, but we didn't have a plan of how we would get from city to city. We trusted, and we knew that it would all be there. I don't think we missed a single meal, to be honest with you. I don't think we were ever late for a single gig, because we knew that our supply was not in our wallet. Our supply was not in our credit card. Our supply was in our willingness to trust completely and to know, to stay in that place of knowing that infinite supply is ours. And each one of us is walking a Camino. Each one of us is on the way, walking into the experience of wholeness. And all we need to do is to trust that everything will be given to us. So take no thought, as Joel says, and as Jesus says, take no thought for any of these things, any of the things that you think you need, any of the things you think you need to do. Take no thought and just surrender and trust. And most importantly, know that everything you need is already given to you, already given to you. So with that, I'll invite Victoria to slide on in. Good morning, Vicki.
Good morning, Brother James. Good morning, everyone. And oh my gosh, you're singing my heart's desire out loud. Thank you. Thanks for that Joel post. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's the other thing I would say. If you want supply to just flow through, get rid of every idea of supply and just be grateful for what's in front of you. Gratitude opens wide the gates. Just, if I always figure, well, if I don't have it, must mean I don't need it. That's as simple as it is. And in fact, so I do have a couple of experiences though. And one this weekend that I was talking to someone about. Over the weekend, you know, now I'm on a fixed income since I've moved. I kind of let go of all any extra funds and everything. And I live on my little Social Security, and I'm grateful for it. I'm always amazed that the government gives us money. It's like the biggest miracle to me. Anyway, all through the years, I was always guided in the restaurants with the kids, everything. Get what you needed and it'll all be taken care of. But the truth is, I always had a stream of income. I had a cash register at restaurants. I had income from the kids. So I was practiced in that. But it isn't until recently that I really am seeing the fullness of it and the ease of it because I don't have an income stream. And I'm still guided. In fact, I got a message just yesterday because I had to go shopping. I just got back home from a couple of weeks on the road myself, and I had to go shop. And I thought, oh, gee, I don't have enough money to get all this stuff. And I got the same message I got all through the years. Get what you need. Don't worry about it. Go as guided. Don't worry about a thing. And the rest of it was, do you really think your income came from a cash register or a kid that was in your house? Come on. And I had to laugh at myself. And but it was very real because I was back here and needed a ton of stuff. And I realized it is that simple. The only supply I'm ever paying attention to is that constant contact within. Dear God, you're my everything. Like my mother used to say in bed, lying down in bed for years, waving her arms. Dear God, you're my everything. You are the apple of my eye. That's all we need to keep. When we keep that, you can't help but be grateful. How can any of us help but be grateful when we've been given everything? The only thing that really blocks our supply that I see is a grievance. Any kind of exception where there's a judgment or withholding love anywhere, anytime, that's what blocks supply. Supply has nothing to do with dollars in your bank account. And money does come from all over the place, or supply. People, my neighbors came over and brought me stuff. It's like stuff comes from who knows where, but it's always a celebration. Truly, it's a celebration. That I feel like we have just learning now how to live by that Sermon on the Mount. Seek ye first the kingdom, everything is given to us. But when we hold a grievance or lack of forgiveness anywhere, it's always against ourselves, and it cuts our supply off because it cuts our constant contact off. And when we have nothing, no grievance or hurt on our mind, you don't need to say prayers all day long. Our natural being is a state of gratitude and celebration. That's where we're living. In fact, I wanted to show you this. This is a wonderful new book by Sebastian Blakely called The Age of the Heart. And Sebastian in this piece was given the description of moving from the age of reason into the age and era of peace and of the heart and of holiness. So I recommend it to everyone. I just got it yesterday. It just went on the market. It's right up there with the Master Teacher Within. It's coming from that same pitch, that same plane of consciousness that is free, abundantly free, as we are freeing ourselves from any little lack. When I was in Boston this last trip, I got to see the greatest gift of my lifetime. When you have sisters or brothers, often there's sibling rivalry, sibling stuff, and with no exception for me too. And it's been one of the primary life lessons for me. And there's always been a little this or a little that hesitation with one of my sisters here or there. And this time, I don't know what happened. It's like something happened and it was like the spell was broken and it was all gone. With my little sister and my middle sister always, but like whatever was there wasn't there anymore. But more than that, I witnessed my little sister had been in a pattern of a pattern that had kind of boundaries around it. I watched my sister and all of us, I watched her in particularly move from a pattern of any little boundary into this expansiveness of spirit where she and her husband made this incredible creek in their backyard that's like an enchanted fairyland. And they did it all with their own hands, but it wasn't the fairyland and it's a fountain, it's waterfalls, it's all kinds of things. But what the beauty of it was, this was an expression of unbounded grace. And it made me cry when I saw it. But the greatest gift was when we were all together, that we were hysterically laughing at things that everybody used to get mad at me for which I was very grateful. When Vicky's here, you'll never get a word in edgewise. She'll take over, or this and that. And usually they haven't been done with laughter. It's been, like, okay, you're right, I got to step back. But this time we were at a family dinner, and everyone, my little sister especially, and I, that's where my special relationship and my need for healing always showed up very clearly for me. And it has been a process in time. But somehow, like in this last trip, it was gone. And that's all I'm telling you. Just like you said, it disappeared. It dissolves. And God knows it's a miracle. But when that dissolves and there's no grievance anywhere, and if you pay attention to where there are grievances, take 100% responsibility. I keep asking for the correction for myself, zero about anyone else. And then one day you show up and like that, it disappeared. And what's in its place is an expansion of the kingdom in time on earth as it is in heaven. Her backyard looked like heaven on earth, truly. But the joy at the table, laughing at all the places that used to be grievances a few months ago, it brought us all to tears of laughter and joy. And that's the era of the heart. That's where we're living. We are naturally the light of Christ. It's our natural being. It's like we've been so mesmerized by our sense of separation and then believing in it. That's why I take no thought. Of course, take no thought. Thought belongs to the realm of the thinking mind, the ego, the realm of separation. If we take no thought, we make way for the Tao, the flow of the Holy Spirit to come in and whoosh, take us his way. Thy will be done. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. All these things will be added unto you. That's where we're at. We're entering that time of holiness, of love that has no limit on it. It's not about romantic love or brotherly love. It's about divine love. Love is our divine nature. We're here to love. And if we find a place where we're still hesitating or we have a judgment on someone, and it doesn't matter how small, it's a cloud that goes in front of the sun. Don't let it stay in front of your sun. You pay attention to it, and I am with you. I ask for that correction in me, that I believe some cloud was greater than the sun of love that we are. And let that sun shine. And the time of unity, the time of happiness, the time of peace on earth is immediately already here. As we live in it, it's expanding around us. We may not see it in all the places yet, but we are starting to. And we're celebrating it in one another's presence every single day. Okay, so Brother James, that's all I have to say.
You've said so much. You've said so much, Vicki. Oh, thank you for the stories. And as you were speaking about Debbie and Noreen, your sisters, I remembered that beautiful quote from the Course that says, "The holiest place on earth is where an ancient hatred has become a present love, loving right here in the present." And suddenly laughter, tears turn into laughter. And that is so beautiful. And a backyard that was just a backyard becomes a little slice of heaven. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. I also just want to share a few of the comments. As you were speaking, I was reading some of the comments in the chat. Oh, well, this is interesting. Lynn says, speaking of me, the glow in my head and my white tunic, I look like the Pope. Okay. And Brenda tells us that the whole passage about the ravens of the air and the barn, this is her calendar verse for September. And let me see here. Brenda also says, Father gives the kingdom. The kingdom is our source. It is our supply, and it's always within us. Dove says, you are always perfectly cared for, always, in every way. Thank you, Dove. It's so good to see you here. And manna from heaven, that's one of the things that I felt. Like manna is always falling. We remember that story with the Israelites escaping Egypt with nothing, but they trusted true supply, and manna came to them from heaven. Yes, it's amazing spiritual food. That's from Sheila. Sheila is, by the way, Sheila and her husband, Tim, have kind of stepped into the role of assistant spiritual directors at Namaste Village, because next year I'm going to be traveling a lot more. So we're so grateful for them. Okay, what else here? Dove also says, Vicky, your inner smile shares divine love and supply. Yeah, that's so beautiful. We are so grateful for all of you. You are the infinite supply of this spiritual family. It doesn't come just from people like me and Vicky or Calico or others who share. It comes from each and every single one of us, radiating this love and this grace and this gratitude. So just keep radiating all of it, and know that infinite supply is everywhere around you. All you need to do is to look within and find that which is always, and remember to be unreasonable in the eyes of the world. Trust the reasonable one that's at the very center of your being. What a great way to start off our week. Thank you, everyone. We love you, and we say together, Amen, 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 y punto, period. Have a beautiful day, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. Namaste.
Love you. See you tomorrow.
Namaste.
Goodbye
Many
now.
blessings. Happy Labor Day in the US.
Yes.
In Canada.
Bye, everyone.